been working with LCS for some time now, the Manager of Membership Services and Development. More importantly, in this context, I've been working on as a level 3 supervisor since 2011, primarily through much of working with people on their case studies. So this morning we're going to run through the background to level 3, purpose, look at some of the components in a little bit more detail, have a look at some critical reflection items, and then move on to how you can move forward. So look at the supports available, perhaps some of the candidate experiences we've gone through, benefits, and the application process itself. Now, the LCS began its life in the Lean Enterprise Research Centre in Cardiff University, and subsequently, a few years down the line, it spun itself out as Lean Competency Services Limited with the programme in place. It's a fully licensed company of Cardiff University. And then, Natalie, if you're familiar with the Lean Competency System, it comprises of a number of levels, and denoted by this pyramid. So many level 1 practitioners, those are earlier on in their improvement career, a fewer level 2 practitioners, those who have developed some experience, developing their leadership skills and program running capabilities. And then what we're going to talk about this morning are the level 3 candidates who've typically been in their roles for quite some time, developed a lot of experience, perhaps over different organisations, certainly in different contexts, and certainly have more strategic and organisational perspective on improvement activity. So let's look at the purpose of the programme. So we usually start here, Natalie, by asking our audience a question. So if you've got an idea, what sort of attracted you to looking at level 3 qualifications?
I think obviously it's always good to be accredited through your journey, and I guess the kind of learning and reflection along the way, which I am a massive reflector, so that helps me put things into practice and get my thoughts together. Okay,
yeah, that's I mean, it's certainly an opportunity for candidates to do that. There's certainly a major part of the value that's created within the programme. Its primary purpose, as certainly a lot on the approved prior learning and experience programmes is to recognise accomplished leading practitioners, those at the top of the game, if you like, by enabling the candidate to demonstrate their progression to a level of competency in leadership and within strategic and transformational dimensions. And as part of that process, as you already mentioned, it's an opportunity and an excuse, if you like, to invigorate your own experience and look back at your own experience with a critical eye, and elements of self-study and research, which we'll talk about in relation to the assignment component. Just to note at this point, its primary focus is on relaying the candidate's practice experience and reflections on those experiences, and isn't officially an academic qualification issued by the university. It is a licensed product of the university. So this single slide probably encompasses everything that the candidate needs to know, and essentially the major part of the programme is putting this evidence portfolio together. It typically takes 9 months, and we encourage people to hit a maximum of 12 months, simply to keep that momentum going. Things can soon drift if you spend much longer on that. It can be undertaken directly via ourselves or via an accredited consultancy, which we'll come on to later. We'll also have reintroduced the option of going through as a group. So a number of candidates wishing to start their level 3 experience can start together and go through the process together. We've had one start recently, and we had many in the past where there were physical meetings where we went to people's sites and learned lots of different, shared lots of different experiences amongst ourselves, as well as viewing of other organisations. The evidence portfolio itself consists of the application, which is essentially a lean CV. That's sort of a gatekeeping exercise. And then it's followed by putting, the candidate illustrating their experience up until date through the means of 3 case studies. Then looking at their knowledge and putting it in the context of their experience through the assignment. And it's finished off with a panel presentation to round everything off and look towards the future. Let's look at that process in a little bit more detail. After the application is approved, we kick off. We have a kick-off session where we're going to the detail of the case studies themselves, look at what's required, and some tips and tricks and templates and all useful items that can be used to put those cases together. It's also an opportunity for the candidate to plan and detail their timetable in amongst their personal and professional commitments. And it's also an opportunity to discuss case proposals. So you'll come to the table with a number of case proposals, and we can discuss which ones are appropriate to tell and illustrate your competency development throughout your career. Once those case proposals are complete and we're happy, us as supervisors and the candidates are happy, they're the way to move forward, then we start turning those into cases proper. Case 1 typically looks at initial focus on the candidate's career, but also gives an opportunity to get your writing style back into focus and develop a case method. The case studies themselves should typically be of a strategic nature, or certainly work towards a strategic story, strategic context, and they're there to illustrate particular elements of not only your lean understanding, but your competencies and leadership qualities. The important thing is, to stress at this point, is really they are there to illustrate your development, not the development of the particular organisation you're in at the time. It's within the context of that case material that you're illustrating your own development, and also the lessons that you learn through a method of critical reflection. Not untypically, and this has proved quite a powerful approach, we put 3 cases together to tell the whole story. So case 1 might detail some of your early experiences, and it's an opportunity to go back and talk to people that were there at the time, and reflect on how not only your technical abilities started to develop, but some of your leadership skills also started to develop, and perhaps some of the motivations that sparked you into the action of working forwards and becoming more of a full-time or maybe a more regular improvement practitioner. And as mentioned, it also gives you an opportunity to develop your writing skills. Typically, we spend many years writing bullet points. We encourage people to write a narrative in the cases. Tell their story, literally tell your story. That once you've covered that, then case 2 typically moves on perhaps a few years. It's there really to start illustrating your maturity development, not only in your knowledge, but also reflecting your development of your leadership skills, and more critically, the understanding and behaviour of others within the context of that body of work. And then case 3 moves, again, not untypically, to something more recent. It might be something that the candidate has undertaken in the last couple of years, or maybe something that's still currently involved in, and actually provides an excuse or an opportunity for the candidate to step back out of that work, out of the trenches, if you like, and critically use the critical reflection skills that they developed in both cases 1 and 2 to look at the current work that they're involved in. We've also enabled case 3 to possibly look a little bit more towards the future. I'll talk a bit more to that in a bit more detail. The cases themselves take a fairly standard approach and structure. So you have an introduction, place yourself in the context, place the reader in the context of what you're trying to achieve at the time. Methods, approaches, whether they're hard methods, tools and techniques, or indeed soft methods where your interaction with individuals and teams, the ability to, and your methods with which you use to develop positive outcomes. Similarly, the analysis of results can take a mixture of hard results, graphs, data, and soft observations perhaps you made at the time, or perhaps you reflected upon as a consequence of these methods and approaches that you took. That then leads on to conclusions, some summary, some thoughts, and importantly, reflecting on the sustainable elements within that program, whether you explicitly did that at the time within the context of that case, or you now had the opportunity to step back and say, what was left in place that made that body of work sustainable or not, as a better word. Now, we encourage critical reflection right the way through that body of work, but we've also added 3 critical reflection questions, and we'll come on to those later, which address the outcomes of those individual cases, but also inform the assignment work, the subsequent assignment work. In all this, you can add supporting documents in the appendices and refer to them, or extract illustrations from those to make the story flow much more readily. There are guidelines for each section and active feedback from your supervisor or mentor. I think that's what distinguishes our program, the APLE program, from other taught programs. Now, I mentioned case 3, where we've given now the option of, we call it the payback option to a certain extent, where the candidate can actually address something that's about to happen, or something, an area which they want to develop. To a certain extent, looking to develop the analysis for a case that will happen. And that project might be something is going to be something that's linked to the candidate's current role. It's of strategic importance, and that the project itself is presented as a plan, call for action, as it were, at the panel presentation process, which is further down the line. As we round off the whole process. Okay, so coming back to the cases in general, once those cases have been approved and assessed and approved and signed off, the candidate's then in a position to move on to the next stage, which is the assignment, which is a bit more of an academic piece. It gives the candidate can also start reading and researching for the assignment prior to finishing the case material. And in fact, we encourage people not to start work on that assignment until after the case is complete, simply because the cases themselves take up a lot of work, and also they can, as a result of your reflective pieces, can inform the assignment subsequently. So it's worth concentrating on the cases first, and then concentrating on the assignment afterwards. Now, the assignment itself typically takes the form of a 4,000-word essay assignment piece. It also enables you to illustrate your personal perspective on them. Title typically relating to, initially, the evolution and development of lean thinking. That's essentially where the book work is. And then you get to develop and discuss a theme and topic of your own interest and bring that into the story, putting one in the context of another. As with the others, there's reading research required, but also some guidance on approach and format. Okay, that's once that body of work's finished, and that can take a few weeks to complete. And that's assessed and signed off as before. So we go through the gatekeeping processes. The candidate's then in a position to move to the next stage, which is the panel presentation, which itself is shaped and informed by the cases and the assignment, but also gives the opportunity for the candidate to look towards the future. Panel members will typically be ourselves, maybe some academics and practitioners that we choose to invite, but it also gives the candidate themselves the opportunity to invite organisational representatives. And we have run them in the past where groups of candidates within one organisation have used it as a showcase for their material or a showcase for a number of candidates' material. We typically, per person, we look at a 1.5 hour window, including discussions and questions. Understandably, more recently, we've only been running online versions of this, but have in the past run physical on-site presentation material. And again, that opportunity might arise in the next year or so, everything else being equal. So once we're happy with that panel presentation, if you like, as the last part of the candidate's evidence portfolio, we're in a position to make an overall assessment and award a certificate. And you'll see a number of recent past candidates being awarded their certificate. The top group here within an organisation, and bottom group here, and then individual going through a consultancy-led process. I mentioned critical reflection a couple of times, and something that you Natalie, have also mentioned. So at this point, I get to take a little bit of a break and just sort of ask you a question. This is probably something you can expand upon, but how often do you think you actually critically reflect on the body of work that you've just done?
I'd say I did it probably more so in the past. So I was a consultant, and obviously there was always end of project reports and case studies and whatnot. So I probably did it a lot. But then when I stopped consulting and kind of went internally into organisations, that you kind of get bogged down into the detail and the depths of the culture of the organisation as such. So I actually did my 2B LCS at the start of this year, which was a really good chance to stop and reflect again. So I made sure since that I build it in, and that I don't get bogged down like I did for a couple of years in the mess that I was in. So yeah, sometimes not as much as I used to, but I'm getting better again.
Well, it's certainly a major element of this programme, and it's emerged as such through people telling their stories, that they stop and think and look back critically at what they've done in the past, maybe quite far back indeed, in fact. And we've, as I mentioned earlier, we've added 3 explicit questions to each case study. One is which is asks you to look at the case experience on your approach to leadership. The next is on a more technical level, the impact on the way in which you apply lean thinking, or tools and techniques, so on and so forth, or the way in which you interact with people. And then the third question looks at a slightly broader point in terms of your understanding of lean thinking, and perhaps also helps the candidate to informs the candidate perhaps on some of the issues that they want to discuss in the assignment piece, subsequent assignment piece. And when we ask people to look back and reflect, essentially it's a constructive criticism of yourself and perhaps of the situations involved at the time. And with the benefit of hindsight, that's often a little bit easier. Be challenging, challenge yourself, challenge those that perhaps were doing things at the time. And more importantly, offer opinions for future strategies, where to next, what could have changed or what did change in your way of thinking after that experience. So just to add, really, I think this emerged as a property of the programme, and I think has proved actually very, very powerful for individual candidates and moving on moving on after the end of the programme. So that encompasses some touches on the elements of the programme, that putting that evidence portfolio together. The support and resources involve one-to-one support from the supervisor, all sorts of questions, guidance on the cases, guidance on all the other elements of the programme, reviewing, stepping back and reviewing and drafting case studies and drafting material to get this iterative process of putting together a completed and assessed set of documents. You'll be encouraged to use templates and guides and reading lists to put those elements together, and there's also a common drive available for live editing and live reviewing. We've encouraged, clearly over the last couple of years, we've only really been able to do web-based interaction, but again, depending on circumstances, there's nothing to stop us visiting live, either on site or on a neutral location or in the university as the opportunity arises. And if candidates wish to go through a cohort process, we hope to get people physically together to be able to do that at some point. So some of the candidates have gone through have come from a wide selection of organisations and experience in all sectors, both in private and public services. So we've had manufacturers, energy suppliers, quite a few consultants. As you have done, consultants come with a diverse experience and level of application, which sometimes people within organisations don't have, but at the other end of that spectrum, we've had people who've been long-serving practitioners within one organisation and have been able to illustrate the depth of understanding that perhaps somebody who spent a couple of years in an organisation perhaps doesn't have. So there are benefits to both types of candidature. We've also had people from public services, in the health environment, large governmental departments responsible for teaching other governmental departments, public broadcasting, and indeed large third sector organisations such as those working in emergency services. So it's given us quite a broad spectrum of candidates over the years. And I mentioned the sort of process itself. I think it's actually the process itself is of value to candidates. We've seen it as real learning experiences and not necessarily technical stuff, learning about themselves, learning about their interactions with others and how they look at themselves and how they can move forward. Now, once that programme is complete, there's the opportunity then perhaps to work with us or the university to look at some research projects, research themes, work together with a community of other practitioners and alumni, level 3 alumni, again, subject to circumstances. You can sign up to our continuing professional development programme. You can probably do that now, Natalie, since you've been working with us on LCS already, which essentially brings together, tries to focus and bring together the improvement practitioners lot under one banner through the means of A3 and critical reflection and project work. And you can look at that on our website. And many candidates have produced thought leadership articles. Lots of them related to the work that they did either within the case studies or indeed the work they put together as an assignment. We've published a number of those on the website. One of the more recent ones was by a lady who worked in financial organisation for quite some time, most of their professional career, and it provided her with an opportunity to tell the outside world, if you like, to showcase their experiences as a practitioner within that environment. So we'll finish off by looking at the process of applying. You can do it directly to us via the website, or have discussions with us to lead to that point. We've got all the facilities on the website to enable that. Or you can go by level 3 accredited consultants, with the details here. Candidates not untypically have at least 10 years experience in the field and as leading practitioners, and that they have to develop and demonstrate that within their case material. Also, candidates should have been experienced in working in strategic level developments with high transformational context, and their knowledge of lean and continuous improvement can be demonstrated through the case studies and through the assignment, but also captured within their, if you like, the lean CV, the application process. The application, as I said, starts by putting your lean CV together. Snapshot of the website, first page on the website. It's important that candidates make time in amongst their busy personal and professional timetables. It's very much a self-directed timetable, and that's primarily the purpose of the kick-off meeting, is to encourage the candidate to put the right things, right processes in the right order for themselves, and fit them in their own foreseeable planning timetable. Now, the fees typically start from £3,400 plus VAT. That might vary depending on whether you've done directly to us or go by an accredited consultant. But there are discounts for those in accredited organisations in the public services, and there are another of our other exemptions. So it's worth having a chat with us before going through the full application process. Now, you can start anytime as an individual, but what we're trying to do with cohorts is start them at prescribed times. We aim to start the next cohort towards the end of November, providing we get enough people together. The cohorts themselves typically comprise of around 4 candidates, maybe 5 candidates would be the most, I suspect. As I mentioned earlier, there's an opportunity there not only to network amongst your candidates, but to go through the process together, looking at each individual's content, but also looking at their experiences within the process. And that provides a level of momentum that perhaps a little bit more difficult for an individual to undertake. And there are other benefits within working with a cohort. And as I mentioned, if you can physically get on people's sites, you can actually start looking at organisations as well. So just to summarise that whole process, we have the benefits of the level 3 programme. It's an independent endorsement of that strategic level capability and experience as a lean thinker, continuous improvement practitioner and leader. It enables the candidate and encourages the candidate to look back critically at work that they've done in the past and actually current work, review their own understanding of improvement concepts, and it enables you to articulate your personal direction to yourself, or if you want to showcase that to other people via panel presentation, the future direction or the direction of the organisation you're in. You can use that as an opportunity. Indeed, not just through panel presentation, but also through articles that you might wish to publish. And that all goes together to create perhaps renewed energy for self-development. So that, I've put this in just at the end, just to remind ourselves of the components, as that putting it together, the evidence portfolio, and you can undertake it as a group or individual part. That whole level of fee experience compels you to reflect on your own development and practices. It enables you to, and in effect, gives you permission to tell your story to yourself, but to others in a structured way. And you can use that then to promote yourself and showcase yourself to a wider audience. And perhaps, again, via the assignment, place your experience in the wider context of lean and improvement practice development.